So we start off with our usual prayer for teacher and student. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditam Astu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. May that one protect us both. May that one nourish us both. May we work together with great energy. May our studies be illumined. May we not unnecessarily cover with each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all. So we welcome questions. This is the Vedanta Series question and answer. I'll, as usual, mute my microphone and await questions.
After discovering the picture of Lord Ganesh, like the nebula that I sent on the group, when something inside me shifted. But I haven't known what is it. And now when I pray, instead of being blank, is this image that pops up. So I've been wondering if that's to what I've been praying to, which really is cosmic mind, or is it something that has been set for me? Because I feel like my connection is the same with you all, but the prayer, in the prayer now, it just pops up this image automatically. Even though I would say Om Brahman, it would just come up this image. So I really don't know what the change has been really inside me, or if something that it was already there. I actually don't know.
See, we have to rely on images in the subconscious mind. The subconscious mind is responsible for everything. Most of our activities are subconscious activities or unconscious activities. The conscious area of the mind is very little. Now, when we sit for a meditation, we have to, first of all, we have to relax. Relax means that we have to start with no effort. It has to be effortless. I was talking to somebody yesterday. They were talking about in spiritual life, they're worried that they may not achieve the goal of life in this life and so on. See, the language is not suitable language, it's suitable in spiritual life. Spiritual life doesn't have goals as such. Only one central goal is there. And that's summarized by Swami Vivekananda. Each soul is potentially divine. The goal is to manifest this from within. But manifestation is a natural changing thing. A seed manifests its potential as a plant or a tree. We don't have to encourage it. It doesn't have to get stressed. Oh, I'm not growing as fast as my neighbor plant. None of these concerns are there. So in that relaxed moment, images will come. They are coming, of course, from the unconscious mind, which is fed from the conscious mind. So that when you came across a picture of Ganesha and you liked it for whatever reason, and it was then explained what is the symbology of it, naturally it'll arise, but many other images can arise also. And we have to take advantage of that. It is like having different strands available to us, or different flowers around us, and we have to arrange them for a shrine. It's the same flowers that are there, but every day we rearrange them in different combinations. This is what makes meditation interesting. So we take advantage of what arrives, and we say, thank you, Lord, because actually, according to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, I am responsible for memory as well as its loss, he says. So whenever something comes back to us, we can take it in that way. The divine mind, the cosmic mind, is giving us a free gift. Some images there. And then we can explore what that means. And whatever is presented to the mind is only one layer of it. Then we have to explore what is the next layer of it, and the next layer of it, and the next layer of it, until we get to the actuality of it. That process is generally called meditation. But if we follow the formula of Patanjali, the formal dhyana step in the whole process of meditation, so that formal thing is where only one thought is there in the mind. So to arrange things in such a way where there's only one thought in the mind, we start off with the most obvious report from the sense organs. And so the five senses present us with a view, and an individual view of the world. These are not standard senses. An individual view of the world that has an interpretation in the mind, and we follow that diligently without taking all the temptations of deviations on our journey. In a concentrated way, we do it. It's like taking a walk on the cliffs. For example, in Ireland, there's a favorite walk, Cliffs of Howth. You walk there. The sea is on the one side. If you're lucky in the evening, you'll catch a sunset and so on. It starts off with a planning moment. You anticipate that this is what you'll do. And knowing the hours in which you'll do it, you'll anticipate all the scenes that you'll see. And then you take your journey. So then it starts off with a resolve. Now the resolve doesn't come to us. Resolve is a conscious movement. It's a voluntary movement. It's an exercise of the will. And so that willing moment has to be done. And that has to be strong enough to carry through the resolve to practice. And then as we are doing it, we take it like a pleasant journey with a running in a commentary. And in this way, we go deeper and deeper and deeper within. So to concern oneself with, there's an image that arose. I used to have a blank. Now I have a certain image. Maybe this is not relevant to the actual journey. We take whatever strand occurs to us, whatever combination of flowers comes to us, and we make our arrangement. We do it artistically, we do it creatively, taking all the ingredients around. It's like cooking. You stand there with a blank, and then you say, okay, what combinations of ingredients have I got, are available to me? And then a creative moment makes some combination, and that combination now becomes your presentation. So that's what I would say about that. There is so much superstition around. The image of Ganesha is put on underwear and printed all around, and Hindus are so mild-mannered, they don't make any objection to it. In the Muslim world, if you put Allah, the Arabic symbol for Allah, or Allah is merciful or something like that, or there is only one God but Allah, and you put that on all kinds of things, there would be an uproar. There'd be violence, probably. So anyway, it doesn't matter as long as the individual understands the importance of this. And Ganesha is such a fun god. If you ask any Hindu, the most favorite forms of God would be Ganesha and Krishna. And in South India, there may be some different ones and so on. But universally, if you take a census about it, that's what it comes out as. So if you in Ireland, there's a park, I think it's called Victoria's Way, and there are immense, huge granite statues of Ganesha there. And some of them in fun pose. One of them was with a paddy's hat and bagpipes. And another image would be there's a computer keyboard, So the person who commissioned the work had a sense of humor, because Ganesha you can have a sense of humor with. And why not? The alternative is to take religion in a highly serious way, and then that creates stress and fear. And many religions stop natural religious progress because of the fear of sin and guilt and all these things. In Swami Vivekananda's language, if you say you're a sinner, you'll be a sinner. He got it from Ramakrishna, of course. Ramakrishna said, oh, to say I'm a sinner, I did a sin, you say it once and leave it. You don't have to say it all the time. If you have a difficulty in a relationship and you make a mistake and you say, I'm sorry, then every 5 minutes later you say, oh, no, by the way, I'm sorry. The other person will get tired of you. You said it once, that's enough. You don't need to say it every day for a year or a lifetime. So we have to be reasonable and sensible. We have to balance our emotion with rationale. That knocks out superstition and gives us a way, yields an access way for us to understand the other layers, the deepest layers of our meditation. So blessed are you if you got an image of Ganesha and you saw its value and understood it to be a symbol of cosmic mind and a removal of obstacles. And it's not the only symbol of it. So, yes, that's what I would say about that. Thank you. I hope I answered your question. Any other questions? There's one question in text. Just quickly, it says, does Lakshmi only represent good fortune? That's a very interesting question. Does Lakshmi only represent good fortune? Yes, Lakshmi only represents good fortune. But the Devi that she represents is only one side of things. When we take the concept of Devi overall, we have to take the good and the bad with it, the beneficent and the reality of destruction as well. Don't forget, if you say and agree with modern science that the whole of the universe is nothing more than dynamic energy in its various forms, as potential energy, kinetic energy, radiational energy, electromagnetic energy, nuclear energy, all these are energies. We don't have to go into all of that. Even as we sit, we can feel that there are energies. One day we can feel energetic, next day we feel maybe not so energetic. And energy is part of our own individual cycle. When we take in food, it has an energy potential. And so this energy potential can be calculated even if you're on a diet or so on and so forth, calorific value, because whatever food you take in is literally burnt, and the process of burning, the radiation of it is actually energy. And it's the energy that we run on, that we use. It's our fuel. Food is our fuel, just like you put fuel in a car. Fuel by itself won't do anything, but when it's put into a system where it stimulates a firing mechanism and pistons go in different sequences that operates a camshaft. So we have to think of these, the human body in the same way, and the human mind as such as well, that there's a certain sequence, because we run on within a framework of time, fortunately. If all the pistons run in the same way, nothing happens. It's only because there's an alternate thing, maybe in a pattern, 1, 3, 2, 4, something like that the camshaft is able to move and rotate, and the shaft turns and the car moves. So if you take this energy, you see it is both constructive and destructive, and without that, the universe doesn't really work. Air is a vital component for our human body, and the energy that allows the lungs to move is really diaphragmatic energy. The diaphragm is like a piston, it moves up and down. So today's thought was along that basis. That was one mention of it. And that energy, therefore, is derived from something as a causal relationship. It's actually potential energy within food that gets released. Now let us take then the same air that we breathe, when stimulated violently, will knock a whole house down, will create a hurricane. When we view it from the Earth's point of view, we'll see maybe streams and vortexes, moving things, dynamic energy. Wherever there's dynamic energy, there'll be destruction, as well as something that is useful. So there is a destructive aspect. When we look at Kali as a representation of this is said to be the most accurate portrayal of the Mother Goddess, which we call the universe. According to Vedanta, is the universe itself. Because Maya and pure being is not separate or different. One is a manifestation of the other. So when you put a framework of time and space and motion and causality, then we have what we call the universe. And because the universe is Maya, what Maya means is it's fine when the illusion vanishes. But when the illusion is there and we take it seriously as a reality, it gives us problems. It's not all problems, of course. You take an oasis in a desert. The beneficent aspect of it is that I feel, oh, there's hope in a desert. And so I can move toward the source of water. Where's the disappointment? When the whole thing vanishes. And I realize, oh, there's actually no water at all. There's a standard joke like that I have told from time to time, of a man who was almost dying of thirst in the desert. And everywhere he looked, just the dry desert all around, and hot winds blowing sand in his face, adding to the dryness of his throat. In the distance, he sees there's a camel, and he gets very relieved. My life is saved. I can have some water. Anyway, as the camel approaches, he asks the man on the camel, do you have water, please, to spare? He says, I don't have water to spare. If I give you water, then there'll be nothing for me and my camel. I can't do it. But I can give you a tie, a necktie. And I have various varieties of it, the blue one, striped one, and so on. No, really, I want water. This episode happens a number of times as he goes through the desert. Second time, he sees another man. No water, but I can give you a necktie, free of charge. I won't even charge you anything. Seeing your desperate condition, what use is that? 3-4 times he comes across this. Eventually, he sees there's something in the distance, and he recognizes it. It's a hotel. And he's so relieved, but now desperate, that he's crawling. And he climbs up the steps, and there's a person there supervising the door and saying, I'm sorry, sir, you cannot come in here without a necktie. So there's a moral to the story, of course, not just a bit of fun. The moral to the story is, whatever comes, even though we may not recognize its use, we have to take it as something that is gifted to us, something that is useful. And we may not see it immediately. So the whole universe, this dynamic energy that we call Shakti, and with its various Bija mantras associated with it, the Bija mantra for Lakshmi is Shri, and Shrim actually. Shrim is the Bija mantra for Lakshmi. And it is that Bija mantra that stimulates that aspect of the universe that provides abundance for us. But we have to be realistic that we need protection from the other things, because whatever we want is double-sided. I want abundance. I want wealth. Good, you'll be granted it. But then you see, if you don't have the wisdom to manage the wealth, it becomes your enemy. So that's what I would say about that. But you said just quickly, so that's my quick explanation of it. Okay, thank you for that question. You see, there's a reason why we highlight these different aspects of the one cosmic mind and the one universal creator, sustainer, dissolver, because it's not so simple. The universe is complex with complex functions, and all of that is registered to the divine. And when we observe these functions, naturally, we have to see these forces. In the ancient days, Vedic times, these forms were not present. There were other forms present. So we find Brahaspati and Mitra and all of these aspects, all these other deities were invoked. Indra was a big god, but unfortunately his behavior made it impossible for him to be the chief of the gods, because what are these deities? We have to make sure what we understand by the word Deva. Deva derived from Diva, meaning an illuminating factor. If you personalize it for convenience sake, that's okay, but don't take it literally. So we have another technical term for it, philosophical term for it. We call these subtle forces underneath all the other waves. Tanmatras. You see how every talk, more or less, I emphasize these tanmatras, not only to gain mastery of them, but also to understand that they are aspects, they are waves of divine grace that combine and recombine and make this universe for us. If we are to take seriously that there is only one existence, then there's no room at the end of the day for duality. And yet duality is our reality. We have to deal with it and uncover the reality layer by layer, patiently, progressively. We do that. So there's another question. Wonderful that we have questions today. How do we differentiate between impulse and intimate? Intuition. Impulse and intuition. How do we differentiate between impulse and intuition? Let me patiently sit and think about it until intuition arrives. What is intuition? Intuition is rehearsed behavior that is settled in the unconscious mind. Into what we call intuition is actually learned behavior. That's on one level. So you have to understand the geography of the mind. There are three aspects to the mind. Unconscious, let's call subconscious, unconscious, just so we don't confuse terms. One of the reasons why we can avoid the term subconscious is not necessarily inferior, but we can say it's underneath. And then, of course, there's the conscious mind itself. And then there is the superconscious mind. So superconscious mind gives us a different kind of intuition. When we have access to that, in the language of the yogis, is when certain energy is stimulated in a subtle way, in a fine way, in the yogic language of the Sushumna. And then, of course, layers of reality are revealed to us. And that's a kind of intuition we put in Vedantic terminology now, that the nearest we come to the truth, to reality, in an absolute way, the nearer we come, say, to cosmic mind, the more we understand something, and that understanding is presented to us as a divine gift, a divine inspiration that comes to us in moments of prayer. And I mentioned the other day, prayer is primarily listening. Or I may have mentioned it to somebody or other, but prayer is really the art of listening. Getting to a poised position and being in a receiving mode where we now receive this inspiration. And sometimes it happens accidentally, and sometimes it happens with the yogi, it's never accidental. The yogi, it's all controlled. It's opened up consciously and deliberately. But you see, there can be ways, unconscious ways of opening it that trigger an opening. Let us take, for example, Beethoven walking in a forest with the sounds, half deaf, and he hears a particular sound, and somewhere he gets an inspiration. Music critics say it's as if he had a personal line, a personal communication connection with God, is how they described it. But he never went to church, he wasn't a religious man, but he was highly spiritual because his sensitivity around nature connected him with the divine. And this divine connection we come out as inspirational music, where every note has to follow the other note. The one great composer and critic, Bernstein, he remarked about this. He said, if you take Beethoven as a melodist, or as an instrumentalist, or as an arranger, or any of these things, there's not much to Beethoven. But one thing, every note is the right note and has to be followed by the next note. And he says, it's as if he has a personal line to God, and nobody else ever in the history of musical creation had this prior to him. So how did he get this inspiration and this intuition? It was walking through nature and open enough to be a recipient, an observing recipient of all the nature around, a recipient of divine glory, divine inspiration, divine grace flowing. The wind of divine grace is ever blowing. We have but to set our sails, says Sri Ramakrishna. And so the open heart would be a recipient. And then we get a message directly from God. That kind of intuition is there. The other kind of intuition, of course, is where we have the, you can say it's instinctual intuition, instinctive. And we have what we call a morphological body. We can call it a pranic body, where we know, for example, if we're walking, we know that somebody is watching us. And recently in many groups, I've tested this out as a kind of experiment. So you do a muscle test through kinesiology and somebody is nicely balanced. And then you say, please walk to the window, face the window. You don't do anything. All you do is watch the person. And maybe there are 100 eyes watching the person. And then say, okay, come around, let's do another muscle test. Let's see if you're nicely balanced. And the person is all out of balance and feels uncomfortable. What happened? So there's a pranic network that we all have. Another body. I mentioned things come in layers. So after the physical layer, which is also layered in itself, like the dermatological layer, and there's another layer beneath that, and so on and so forth. And we can study the anatomy of a person by saying circulatory man, skeletal man, and so on like that. Many layers are there even on the physical level. But according to the yoga theory, there is another morphological layer, another body called pranic body. This is mentioned in the Taittiriya Upanishad as a kosha, a sheath. So that sheath you can connect with because it operates actually, it gives life to the physical body. And when the physical body has its demise, then it means that that pranic body has gone. So what one recent scientific discovery is like this, experimenting with pigs, that after a pig has died, it is possible to revive the organs for a period of time. Independent, the brain of the pig is not working, it's not operating. It gives scientists now a new insight into death and dying, that organs are still capable in a cellular way of being revived. There's a man called Alexis Carrel who won a Nobel Peace Prize for it. Now it's kind of ignored, it seems. where he took the cells of a chicken's heart, kept them in laboratory conditions, fed a certain quantity of nutrients in, and calculated number of waste products out, managed to keep the chicken heart cells going for some 10 years. And the chicken's lifespan is not like that, giving rise to an inferred theoretical understanding. Actually, organic life can be sustained indefinitely. Now, we knew this because yogis can also do it. They can extend their life for the next 100 years, 1,000 years, and even create other bodies to operate in. We know this from Patanjali Yoga Sutras. So that's another kind of instinct, if you will, that on that level, on the energetic level, we have a different understanding. So now, what is impulse? Impulse is a psychological condition that creates a reaction on the emotional level, and therefore is not reasoned out, and it doesn't come to us, as it were, from outside. Nothing comes to us from outside, by the way. Everything is from inside. But impulsive relates to it can be related to emotions such as impatience, anger, and so on, an impulsive movement. So before we decide what is impulse and what is intuitive, we really have to sit back and take stock. For example, when the master Sri Ramakrishna died, or passed on, or went on, he appeared to the Holy Mother a number of times. One of the instructions was, I never gave a mantra to yogi, Yogindra, who became Swami Yogananda. Please really give it. And she ignored it. She wasn't sure. Is this hallucination? I've never done it before. So I have to sit and evaluate it. Then it happened several times. And then ultimately a number of other matching movements happened. And she realized, something I have to do. So an interaction between conscious mind, impulsive mind, that is unconscious, it comes from a subconscious area, and intuition has to be evaluated. Otherwise, we could make a mistake about it. But if you're used to the intuitive line means I'm always tuned into cosmic mind. It's like tuning into a broadcast. You're always sure that it's the broadcast. There's no mistake about it. And it becomes a natural thing then. It becomes a cognitive thing. But if some strange howling noise comes from somewhere else, then I have to doubt it. And if in knee-jerk reaction is the English phrase for it, of course, impulse. We know from the Enneagram, of course, that there are impulsive types. Your first port of call, that's what you do. In the original course, we termed it the gut reaction. Or gut reaction, just do it. Like a crocodile's instinct is to bite. Any movement it reacts to, and it's very, very quick. In Zimbabwe, there are crocodile farms, and it's easy to provoke a crocodile. A crocodile will stand there, sit there, it's a cold-blooded creature. It'll warm itself in the sun, but any movement it's sensitive to, highly sensitive to. And before you know it, your leg is gone. So every animal has this, and it's all learned behavior until it becomes instinctual. So there's actually a threefold question to this. What is the difference between intuition, impulse, and instinct? And very often, instinct will come out as impulse. For example, a fly lands on my nose and I swat it. I make a hand movement. So this is really the habitual thing I'm used to. And that's one thing. That's one form of impulse. But then the psychological impulse is irrational behavior from an emotional point of view. Intuition is subtle. Intuition means I'm tuned in to the cosmic mind, to cosmic will. Jesus said, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So mentioning a deep connection when in nature, I realized when I am in that profound state, it is very difficult for me to come back. I feel to stay in that state forever, but that would probably affect the body. Let me just think about this. Mentioning deep connection when in nature, I understand that. I realized when I am in that profound state, it is very difficult for me to come back. I feel I want to stay. I revise your wording in that state forever, but that will probably affect the body. You see, we have to use nature as a trigger, that's all. And we have to be sensible enough to have time boundaries on it. That's why set times for meditation are there. Beethoven had that connection, but he never lost consciousness about it. He used the connection, that's the difference. It reminds me to Sri Ramakrishna when he was in Samadhi and didn't want to come back. Yes, that's very different. It's a different state. Samadhi, you're not connected at all, or there's no duality connection, sense of duality. It is a state of pure being and is accompanied with pure joy. And most people, and of course, he was able to come back. It's not that he didn't want to come back. He wanted to come back because he was required to teach. But certainly, if there's no will to perpetuate that, you can stay in Nirvikalpa Samadhi for some 3 weeks. 21 days is what they say. And then you'll be like the salt doll, you'll disappear into the ocean. But is it practical if you have work to do? Somebody like Vivekananda didn't want it. He had it, but of course he wanted it originally, and Ramakrishna scolded him. I thought you'd be like a big banyan tree. I thought that you would do some work and do something useful for humanity. So we have to have this balance. This is why the 4 yogas are important. We have to have a deep appreciation for the environment around us, but it's useless unless we see it in awkward people. We have to see the same thing in normal, conventional things, not just special things, ordinary things also. I think you get my understanding. Good.
Thank you, Swamiji. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you, Swami. Paramagat.
Guru Mahagat.
Om